Greetings everyone, this is the Bucket speaking, and today we are in Kerbal Space Program. An adorable little game about, well, as the name suggests, running your own space program with these wonderful little green guys right here. This game is fairly realistic and based somewhat off of modern day NASA efforts, but for the most part it's just a nice fun place to fly some rockets. Now what today's video is particularly about is a bit of a tutorial regarding aviation. Now, Kerbal Space Program at this time actually lacks a true tutorial on how to properly build and fly their in-game space planes and even the most basic airplanes. And so, I figured why not go in and do our own little tutorial with the few little tips and tricks I've learned from my short time of playing it thus far. So let's get into this. Now before we actually step into the game world itself and get into the main bulk of the tutorial, I'm just going to cover very quickly over some just basic controls suggestions that I would like to give to anyone who's trying to fly airplanes in Kerbal Space Program. These are just, again, some things I've learned by playing it myself. So the biggest suggestion I can give in this sense is, if you have one available, use a joystick. While flying rockets and stuff, you can just use the keyboard controls. I personally find that flying rockets and things are so much easier with any form of a joystick, or more specifically, if you have an aviation-based joystick. Alright, now let's go into the main game. I suggest before you go into all of this that you go through and do the other tutorials in-game before coming to this one, otherwise you might have, well, maybe a little bit iffy on what some of the controls are. So go and do those if you haven't already, then we'll continue on. Alright, so first let's start with kind of building the basic space planes. Now, we're going to start with some of the basic planes that you start off in the very, very beginning, before you really get any of the more advanced technologies that we can see over here. So, again, I suggest, before going and building a space plane, go under here. There is a section called Aircraft. And under the basics, I suggest just read through all of this. It's some very basic things, some things that help you just with learning the basic ropes of assembling a stable aircraft. Alright, so now I'm just going to show you how to build the most basic aircraft for just low altitude atmospheric flight. So first, of course, always get your cockpit. The first airplane cockpit you'll get is this Mark 1 here. Then go under Structural. Now again, in career mode there will not be nearly as many items under these tabs. Go to the Structural Fuselage. Just attach one thing. If you wish, you can do one of, if I go to the right tab, one of these fuel fuselages. That just allows you to carry a little more fuel, your plane gets to go a little bit farther. So you have that. Now we're going to go down, and again, one of your early pieces that you'll get, I believe, is the tail connector. Nope, not that one. The tail connector B. Slap that on the end. Have to adjust that. Now, again, one of your early game wings is the swept wings. Now, the moment you start putting on wings, you're going to want to come down here and switch this into this mirror mode. Again, I'm assuming you've already done many of the construction tutorials, so you know the basics of how to use the in-game building editor. Alright, now that we have those wings, let's add some tail fins. Snap that right on the back here. Now when attaching the center fin here, just to prevent some later glitchiness, turn off mirror mode momentarily. Slap that on there. And now we have, that is your most basic wing configuration of the absolute most basic aircraft you can build in this game. Now all we have to do is put some engines on this thing and some landing gear. So now again, I believe this guy, yep, is your first small liquid fuel thing. Now, for the very first aircraft jet engines you get access to, you're going to have to put one of these per engine. Just how they're designed, it's a little bit weird, but you'll see in a second exactly what I mean. Slap these underneath the wings here. Now the reason why you need to use these little fuel tanks is because you can't attach these Juno engines just onto the main chassis of the plane. However, you can attach these fuel tanks anywhere onto the side, and then slap the engines onto the back. Now with any engines that you add, because they are an air-breathing jet engine, all jet engines are air-breathing, you're going to need an air intake of some kind. Select one of those, and because these are the same size as the fuel tanks, it's going to put them right on the front there. And there we go. That is all the engines we really need for this thing to fly at a basic level. Now, let's go under our ground and add some landing gear. Now, when you first start off, the only landing gear you are going to have access to are these two little things. They are very basic and not necessarily the most stable of things, but they will get the job done. If you read through the aircraft section of this little booklet down here, then you'll know that you will want to put your landing gear in a nice spread out pattern, kind of a little bit further to the back. A little other suggestion I would make is make sure you have one set of wheels behind your center of mass and one set of wheels in front. Again, we're going to turn off the mirror mode to attach this one since we are putting it right down the center. And there we go. That is the most basic aircraft that you can build. Of course, above this you can just build whatever your heart desires, whatever ginormous space planes you want to build. But this is kind of your most basic plane that you can have. Now, just some quick principles before we take this thing into flying. I know I've kind of oversimplified this process. I've kind of blown over a lot of things, but just some quick little things. Again, if you've gone through the other building tutorials that are in the game, then you should know some of the basics already. But some things to note when it comes to aircraft is, for one, always make sure both sides are even. You want kind of the exact same wing configuration, exact same engine configuration on both sides, just to keep the plane balanced. If either you don't build it balanced, or say you lose a landing gear or something while in mid-flight, your plane will begin to lean and just start to fly a little more sideways instead of flying nice and straight. Now, the easiest way to tell if your plane is actually balanced is, first of all, turn on the center of mass overlay, and it'll put this little ball here. And if this is sitting right down your center line, then congratulations, you're balanced in weight. You will want to turn on, you have your center of thrust overlay. This will just show kind of where the middle of all your thrusters are. Again, so long as this is straight down your middle line, then you're all good on that one. And last, the aerodynamic overlay. So long as, again, this is right down your center line, then you will you should be able to fly the plane just fine. As well as for good stability, if you can bring your center of, your aerodynamic center as close to being just behind the center of mass as possible. Now this current craft, the aerodynamic lift center, is a little bit further back from the center of mass than I would like it to be, but seeing as we're just trying to build a very basic aircraft, this will work just fine. Now again, like I said, you can build the aircraft in any size or any style you really want. It's all up to you. That's the wonders of this game. You can build just about whatever you like. Alright, so now that we have our plane built, let's go over a quick little bit as to how to fly this thing. Overall, the building of aircraft is relatively easy in comparison to the actually getting this thing to fly well. Alright, now stay tuned next time for when we actually teach you how to fly this darn thing.